There's not even 8 in that number, Shelby.
Sorry, I was trying to read a website and do this at the same time. So,
Well, that doesn't work very well.
I found another company we might be able to lease with. I was looking at it.
Oh, yeah. That'd be nice.
Yeah. They're really annoying about pets, but they allow pets, so...
Well, okay, we'll talk about it later. But
it's not that they're annoying, they're just, like, really, like, if they do any damage at all, we're going to murder you kind of thing, you know?
Gotcha. Well, neither of our pets
fine.
will do any damage, so...
Yeah, and all of their properties come with a washer and dryer, so...
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's ideal.
Yeah. So, we'll look more whenever we're done.
Yeah.
But yeah, renting in this area is horrible. So...
It's trash.
It's awful.
Don't do it.
No, it's terrible, but that's okay. Okay, it's Shelby. Shelby, you want to do the intro?
Shelby's.
And then we can do announcements? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hey guys, you are listening to The Triad, where we're spooky but sensitive. I am Shelby.
I'm Hannah.
I'm Shannon. Okay.
Yay.
Do we have any announcements? Because we haven't recorded in a couple weeks. Somebody might. I have no idea.
It's not really an announcement, but I might be sick. I don't know.
Yeah.
I woke up throwing up in the middle of the night last night, so like...
Yeah.
But nothing has happened
since. Is it an announcement, or is it just an assumed state of your being at this point?
That's true.
That's true.
That's very, very true.
Honestly, with me, yeah.
That's true.
It's pretty much who I am at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I should just live in a bubble in a hospital.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I got, really.
I found some yarn in a box today. Not that that's not uncommon in my house, but
yeah,
it's
what are you
pretty
gonna
nice
make
yarn
with it?
So I'm excited. I'm rolling it up right now because it's a tangled mess.
Yeah. Do you have a project in mind for it?
I think I'll make some socks.
Cool.
Always a good project.
Do I have any announcements? I don't think so. I'm sorry. I'm really tired. And again, I'm trying to read something while talking at the same time. So I need to not be on this website.
Are you... What's the word I sent you guys earlier? Quanked?
Yes. I am.
We need to bring that word back. That is my entire state of being.
Yeah.
It's like Cheez-It, you duffer.
Yeah.
Oh, now I have to text Allie.
Please don't.
I'm going to.
Please don't remind her.
Oh, I am 100% reminding her.
Why? Okay. Oh, I guess our announcement is that Shelby and I are like officially going to visit Hannah in a couple weeks, so that'll be fun.
And tell them where you're stopping.
Oh yeah, we're stopping in West Virginia so we can see the Mothman statue, so...
I cannot go as my job does not permit it.
Yeah.
But
well, like we're going on the way in to see you, so it'd be kind of hard.
I mean, I would totally meet you if I could, but I can't. So I won't.
Yeah.
Oh, my cousin's getting married this coming weekend.
Oh.
That's an announcement. Congratulations, Dara and Ben.
Yay.
I'll see you
Not a
in
cousin
North
that I
Carolina.
know.
It's Kevy's sister. Kevy's little sister.
Gotcha, okay. Yuki, what the fuck? She is underneath my bed, and my bed has like drawers underneath it because it's from like IKEA, but there's like a little pathway between my bed and the wall, and so she can get under on the other side where I have it like up against the wall. And so she's underneath it and like attacking the bottom of my mattress, so I could just feel her like under there. Anyway.
Yeah.
I love my cat. She's a bitch.
Okay.
I should
Okay,
send
go
you
ahead,
guys the
yes.
bite marks on my hand. Yes, let's go. Sorry.
Because I had to edit
Well, he
this
is a Catholic
today.
priest,
So
yeah.
Let's go. Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay. If you would like
Okay.
to go to the so today we're going to be
I'm
talking
funny.
about Saint Vitus's dance. I think that's how you say his name. I don't know. But if you would like to go to slide 2. So it's also sometimes known as St. John's dance or just dancing mania.
Oh, I know.
I know what this is.
Yeah, you like 100% know what this is.
Yeah.
But it was a social phenomenon / possibly a medical thing that kind of like swept across Europe between the 14th and 17th centuries. There are like cases of it like outside of those centuries, but that's kind of like the main time period when it was like really big, I guess. But it is a type of like dance mania that kind of like went across Europe. So basically, the afflicted individuals would dance hysterically through the streets for hours, days, and sometimes even months until they collapsed due to exhaustion or died from like medical issues that were caused by the exhaustion. So things
Related
like heart
to
attack
too
or
much
stroke.
dancing.
Yes. They just danced until they died.
He's got St. Vitus's feet.
Yeah, basically. And like the number of participants in any one outbreak, sometimes it was just one person, sometimes it reached into like the thousands. So it was kind of all over the place. And then in most like modern depictions of it, it's usually seen as something that only affected women or primarily affected women, but that's not necessarily true. We'll kind of get into it. But men and children were equally likely to be affected, basically. And then one of the big things about it is that it was very clear that the participants did not want to be dancing. They were described as grimacing, exhausted, and often in pain, and they shook and twitched as they continued to dance. So, it was not a fun time.
No.
But basically, what?
I said no.
Yes. So the term dancing mania is derived from choreomania, which comes from the Greek choros, which means to dance, and mania, which means madness. It's also sometimes called the dancing plague.
Yeah, that's what I knew it by.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like St. Vitus's dance, and I'll get into why it's called that in a second, but that's one of the more like, I guess, historical terms for it. Same with St. John's dance. But in just like colloquial terms, it's usually called dancing mania or the dancing plague. But the condition was initially considered a curse sent by a saint, usually St. John the Baptist or St. Vitus. So that's kind of why it was known as St. Vitus's dance or St. John's dance. The thing with St. Vitus as well is because he was considered the patron saint of dancers and entertainers in general. So the victims of dancing mania often ended their processions at places dedicated to either St. Vitus or St. John. And they would like basically dance in front of places dedicated to those saints and pray to those saints in an effort to end the dancing. Also, incidents of the dancing plague often broke out around the time of the feast of St. Vitus, and so a lot of times the like mania and all of that was associated with him because it broke out around the time of his feast, and also because he's the patron saint of dancers and entertainers.
But
and
why
then,
St. John the Baptist?
That one was because, wait, do I have it somewhere else in my notes? Maybe did I take that part out? I might have taken that out of my notes, and I can't remember now because I wrote these a week ago. If we get to it, we will get to it. Otherwise, I'll look it up at the end.
Okay.
I think it's because that is who they would like pray to end it, but
but you said remember. It was a curse from St. John, and I'm wondering why he in particular would curse people to dance. Yeah, because he just lived out in the desert.
Right. Yeah,
kind of did his own thing.
I know it said it somewhere in my research. I just am not seeing it in my notes right now in my quick skimming here. So, but that is like they only call it St. John's Dance in Germany. So I don't know necessarily. I'll see if it's in my notes. Otherwise, I will go back through. I know it's in one of my sources.
Okay.
But yeah, so just Shannon, this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, but the fun fact is that St. Vitus is also said to protect against lightning strikes, animal attacks, and oversleeping.
Can I just say that you listed 2 out of the 3 things that my grandfather almost died of? He was struck by lightning at least 3 times, and he was gored by a bull once. Also he had polio, so that could be oversleeping. I don't know.
So what you're saying is that St. Vitus should have been his patron saint.
Or was out to get him.
That too, yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Also, Hannah, I don't know if you know this. How does Catholicism like determine what you are the patron saint of?
It usually is what you did in your life. So if you were like, if Saint Vitus was like a dancer of some kind or some kind of an entertainer or like the child of entertainers or whatever, that would probably be why he was made a patron saint of that. So like Saint Francis of Assisi is patron saint of animals because he was all about them animals. Saint Teresa of Avila is, I'm just giving you examples, is the patron saint of women in the church, like women. There's like a term called a doctor of the church, just means that you're like a theologian sort of. Yeah. She's also the patron saint of people who suffer from headaches because she was the one who like astral projected into heaven, or so they say. And she had headaches and stuff and suffered from headaches, and so that's why she's the patron saint of headache sufferers, because she too was afflicted by it.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it just depends.
Just wondering because it was like he's the patron saint of dancers and entertainers and lightning strikes, animal attacks, and oversleeping, and I was like, none of those go together. But okay.
I am definitely going to pray to him when I oversleep. Let's see. Saint Vitus.
But yeah, also his feast was like celebrated by dancing in front of his statue. So basically, just everything dancing related is considered St. Vitus's territory. So yeah.
He was a martyr. And
I just kind of assume that most saints are martyrs.
Not all of them, but a lot of them are.
Yeah.
Let's see. Veneration.
All right, while you read that, I'm going to go on. So, slide 3. So the earliest known outbreak of dancing mania occurred in the 7th century. But we don't really know much about that one. There's really only like 2 instances that have like a lot of information about them. Most of them we just know that they like occurred, but we don't know like details and stuff like that. So one of the earliest known incidents occurred sometime in the 1020s in Bernburg in Germany. And that is where 18 peasants began singing and dancing around a church, disturbing a Christmas Eve service. And that is really all we know about that instance. And then further outbreaks occurred during the 13th century, including one in 1237 that involved a large group of children that traveled from Erfurt. This is a lot of German towns that I'm probably pronouncing wrong, and I apologize. But yeah, so this group of children traveled from Erfurt to Arnstadt in Germany, which is about 12 miles. And the entire time that they were traveling, they were jumping and dancing the whole way. So a lot of historians think that this is kind of where the legend of the Pied Piper of Hamelin came from.
Ooh.
Yuki, can you not? Can you not?
No.
Just because.
Oh, and Peppa has joined the chat.
Yuki, I swear to God, stop.
Cats, attack!
Okay. Sorry, there's a plastic bag in my bed.
If you hear a big thud, it was Peppa jumping on my desk.
Yes. Okay, yeah, so... Yeah, historians think that this is kind of where the legend of the Pied Piper came from, because a lot of the details of this story are similar to that story, and the Pied Piper of Hamelin legend originated around this same time. So it would make sense. And then there was another incident in 1278 that involved about 200 people, and they were dancing on a bridge over the River Meuse, and apparently it was too many people, and they were dancing so vigorously that the bridge collapsed. And yeah, so many of the survivors were restored to full health at a nearby chapel dedicated to Saint Vitus. And then so the first
update on Saint Vitus. Yes. There is there's not actually any evidence that he was a real person, but
nice.
And also I don't know why he was the saint of dancing people.
Yeah.
He and the two other people were like preaching the gospel and were martyred for it. They like somehow miraculously escaped. Like the place where they were being held was destroyed, and they got away, but then later died of their like injuries from the torture that they had endured.
Gotcha.
And are therefore martyrs in the church. He was apparently maybe a son of a senator who converted to Christianity at the age of 12, but maybe also not a real person. Anyway, that's all I know. Thank you. Goodbye.
This has been...
Don't know what dancing has to do with that.
Right? This has been Catholic History with Hannah. Okay. Okay, so the first major outbreak of dancing mania occurred between 1373 and 1374. There's some discrepancy in the dates of that. But yeah, if you would like to go to slide 4. So.
Oh, I skipped a whole slide.
Well, you were doing research for us, so you're good. The slide itself isn't really that important. It's just a picture of the Pied Piper of Hamelin. So.
Yeah. Shelby, real quick.
Yes.
I haven't been paying attention because I found 2 houses on this website.
Oh my goodness.
And their renewal policy in the lease is in January, which is better.
I can handle that.
Fucking October.
Right.
I can handle January.
Okay. Cool.
Sorry. I'll stop looking at houses now.
It's fine. I'm just talking to myself. It's fine.
I'm
sorry.
Listening.
I don't care.
I am listening. I'm just not like engaged.
I've been participating.
I'll be more engaged. Yes.
I asked a question. So. And then looked it up for myself.
No, you're good. You're good. I don't actually care.
I'm done now. I will send you the links later.
Sounds good. Okay.
So you can look at them.
Oh wait, now I'm going to answer my own question about St. John's Dance.
Oh, did you?
Okay.
No, but I'm going to look it up.
Okay.
Cool. Oh, good lord. Okay.
Yeah, because I remember reading why it was St. John, but I am not seeing it still in my notes, and it would have been like back on slide 2 is where I would have put that information, so I must have just been like, that's not a relevant sentence, and it was. But, here we are. Okay, slide 4. So, on June 24th of 1374, one of the biggest outbreaks, and this is one of the ones that has like a lot of a fair amount of information about it. So one of the biggest outbreaks began in, I am not going to pronounce this correctly, but Aachen in Germany. It's Aachen. So I'm sure it's some sound I cannot pronounce.
It sounds right to me.
But anyway.
I don't know.
Right. I'm sorry to anyone from there or anyone who speaks German.
They know we can't speak German.
Yeah, German's one of those languages I cannot do. It makes no sense to me. So this outbreak began in Aachen before spreading to other places such as Cologne, Flanders, Franconia, Hainaut, Metz, Strasbourg, Tongeren, Utrecht, and regions and countries such as Italy and Luxembourg. So it's not necessarily that it like started here and then like people from here like went to all these other places. It's more that like each of these places had like their own little outbreak, but they all happened around the same time, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So this outbreak in Germany,
I can tell you why St. John is listed as this.
Yeah, tell me.
Because both St. John and St. Vitus are also the patron saint of epileptics, and this is sometimes considered an epileptic curse.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Well, St. John, okay, I'll take that back. St. Vitus is the patron saint of epileptics. St. John is the patron saint of people who need healing from spasms or seizures.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
Thank you, Wikipedia.
Yes.
And also there's like a Catholic version of Wikipedia, and it does the same thing that Wikipedia does. Every time you click on it, it like some priest's face pops up and he's like, please don't scroll past this, please read this thing, please donate to us. And I'm like, you and Wikipedia are so bad and annoying. It's literally just Catholic Wikipedia. Like I'm not even kidding. Funny. It's just that's what I use to look up things about saints all the time.
That's funny.
See, I try and give at least a little bit of money to Wikipedia every year because I use it so much.
Yeah, I do too.
Doesn't the Catholic Church have enough money?
Yeah, I don't know why they want money from me. I guess it's because it's some dude's website.
Probably,
and he's like,
yeah.
The church won't pay me for the internet. Please. Money?
Yeah.
No.
Oh my goodness.
Talk to the Vatican.
Okay.
Talk to the Vatican.
Oh gosh. Okay. Where am I? Where was I thinking? Thoughts. Okay. Yeah. So 1374. So this was a book that was published in 1888 by Justice Friedrich Karl Hecker. And it's Justice is his name. It's not a title. Just in case you were wondering.
That's such a cool name.
Yeah. Anyway. And so this book is called The Black Death and the Dancing Mania. But basically in it, he kind of describes what happened in this outbreak in Aachen. So, quote, they formed circles hand in hand and appearing to have lost all control over their senses continued dancing, regardless of the bystanders, for hours together in wild delirium until at length they fell to the ground in a state of exhaustion. They then complained of extreme oppression and groaned as if in the agonies of death until they were swathed in cloths bound tightly around their waists, upon which they again recovered and remained free from complaint until the next attack. So, that's fun.
So wait, they like put on tight belts and we're good?
That's what it sounds like. And because it just says around their waist, so I don't know if they like tied these people down or what, but
oh, maybe tied them on trees. Stop dancing.
Stop dancing. But yeah, and then further episodes occurred in 1375 and 1376 with incidents in France, Germany, and the Netherlands. And in 1381, there was an outbreak in Augsburg. And then further incidents occurred in 1418 in Strasbourg, where people fasted for days and the outbreak was possibly caused by exhaustion from fasting. And then in another outbreak in 1428 in Schaffhausen, a monk danced to death. And that's one of the cases where it was just one person. So I'm not really sure you can call it like dance mania. But this monk like danced himself to death. And then in the same year, a group of women in Zurich were reportedly in a dancing frenzy. So a lot of these cases, like I said, there's only like the two really, the 1374 one and then this one in 1518 that I'm about to talk about. Those are really the only two that have a fair amount of like contemporary information to kind of like give details or corroborate the story that this happened. Most of them are just like with the monk, it was something just kind of like written in the records of the church, and they're like, oh yeah, this monk danced himself to death, sort of thing. So a lot of the instances, there's just not that much information about. But if you would like to go to slide 5, so this is the other big outbreak that occurred in July of 1518 in Strasbourg. And this is where a woman who was identified as Frau Trophia, something like that. She began dancing in the street, and then over the course of the month that she was out dancing, between 50 and 400 people joined her, which is a very large range of people, but okay. Mm-hmm. Most of the information that I could find and like most of the sources said it was like 400 people, so I assume it was around there, but I don't know for sure. And then most of...
Now, was it like a mosh pit situation or was it like what kind of dance are we talking?
Honestly, they were out there doing swing dancing.
Oh my god, I love it.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, so no, it would be better if it was just line dancing for a month long. I can't stop
this foxtrot.
It was a month-long electric slide. Cotton Eye Joe.
Oh my god. Cotton Eye Joe for months.
Just 400 people.
Cotton Eye Joe so hard his heart
doing
exploded.
The Cotton Eye Joe.
Yeah, that monk up in wherever the fuck his heart exploded from the Cotton Eye Joe.
That's what I'm just gonna think of now. Anytime someone's not that it comes up in conversation ever, but anytime I read about like Dance Mania, I'm just gonna be like, it was the Cotton Eye Joe.
I hope
Where
it was.
Where did they come from? And where did they go?
Yeah, been Cotton Eye Joe. Have either of you seen or have I made you watch Swiss Army Man?
I've seen it.
Oh, it's so good, Shelby. You should watch it.
It's so fucking weird.
It is. It's bizarre. But it's so good. And the music in it is like all the songs that are stuck in his head, in this guy's head. And one of them is Cotton Eye Joe. And it just gets really like orchestral and beautiful in the middle. And you're like, wow.
My favorite Manchester Orchestra did the music, all of the music for that movie.
Oh,
so
it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. The music is amazing.
Oh my goodness.
Another song that he gets stuck in his head is the Jurassic Park theme.
Oh my goodness.
It's really good.
Yeah. I randomly get the Indiana Jones theme stuck in my head, and I don't think I've ever even seen one of those movies all the way through, but I think we played the song in band one time. But I'll just be like walking around at work, and all of a sudden I find myself singing the Indiana Jones theme song. That and the Mario
whole past week
song.
Yeah. This whole past week, since it was the week before, so that is my announcement, I guess. It's vacation this week. Hooray! But last week, all I had stuck in my head was One Day More from Les Mis. Because I was like, we can do it, guys.
Oh my goodness. Are you the one who sent us that TikTok?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Immediately,
and
yes.
I haven't stopped thinking about it since. There's one where he does it in all of Javert's part, which is Russell Crowe. He just does it as Russell Crowe every single part, and it's so funny because he like has his mouth wide open and he's just,
oh my god,
so bad.
Oh my god.
But that's exactly how they sing in the movie. So good.
Oh my gosh.
The Eddie Redmayne one killed me.
Literally,
I did not live until today.
I like Eddie Redmayne. This is nothing against him. But the entire time I was watching Les Mis, I was just like, when he sings, he sounds like Kermit.
But only sometimes. It's not consistent.
It's not. It's so bad.
He does. And that Hugh Jackman can sing. He's been in a lot of musicals. Yeah. That was not in his range.
No,
at all.
It was not.
He should have been anyone else.
Yeah.
Right, like if they had had Hugh Jackman as Javert, it would have been great.
Sick.
Like,
but
I love Hugh Jackman. The man is a phenomenal singer, like, been on West End.
He's awesome.
Love him. Nothing against him. But it was not.
That was not in his range.
Songs for him.
No.
Amanda Seyfried, on the other hand, was, I mean...
How about we get back to the topic? This is a very long tangent between 5 different topics.
Okay, sure.
Listen, you are talking to 2 people with ADHD. This is not...
I know.
You're not going to get anywhere.
Oh my gosh. And all I've had today is a Sprite, so...
Anyway, let's talk about Mamma Mia. Let's break down the second movie. Ready? Go.
It's amazing. Anyway, okay, so... in this outbreak with the 400 people in Strasbourg, many of them died from heart attacks, stroke, and exhaustion. But oddly enough, the local nobility, they were disturbed by the events, obviously. So they consulted with physicians who had, this is so surprising for medieval medicine, but they decided that it was nothing supernatural causing these people to dance. And they declared that the hysteria was a, quote, natural disease. But the cure that they prescribed for it was more dancing. So they set up, like, wooden stages and, like, dance halls all throughout the town. And they paid musicians to keep everyone dancing night and day for, like, this whole month. Crap.
Why was that their solution? That doesn't make sense.
I don't know. It's medieval medicine.
Yeah, that's true.
It's either ghosts or just keep doing it.
They're also like, let's drill holes in your head because you have a lot of ghosts in there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Okay.
There is one man, Robert E. Bartholomew. He's a historian. And he points out that records from the time claim that the dancers were often from other regions. And so he has his own opinions about, like, what that means and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But in a couple slides, I'm going to go through, like, what possible causes for this were. And so he'll come back up. But basically, so he suggested that a lot of these dancers were religious pilgrims. Mm-hmm. So he wrote, and this is all going to be a quote, "The behavior of these dancers was described as strange because while exhibiting actions that were part of the Christian tradition and paying homage to Jesus, Mary, and various saints at chapels and shrines, other elements were foreign." Rodolphus de Rivo's Chronicle Decani Tongrensis, basically that's just a record from the time period. In that, it states that in their songs they uttered the names of devils never before heard of. And then Petrus de Herrenthal writes in Vita Gregory XI, "There came to Aachen a curious sect." And the Chronicon Belgicum Magnum describes the participants as a sect of dancers. So...
What'd you graduate as? Oh, Belgicum Magnum.
Yes.
I was only cum laude.
But yeah, so basically what he's saying is that, like, particularly for this outbreak, it seems like could have been caused by like these outsiders coming in, and it was something to do with like their traditions or whatever religion that they were celebrating, but it was all kind of like convoluted and weird because there was stuff related to like Christianity and Jesus and like that kind of stuff, but then there was also like foreign elements to it. And so basically his theory, like Bartholomew's theory, is that it was that like all these foreigners came in on a religious pilgrimage and were dancing about and doing all these things, and then the locals were like, oh, we're free to do stuff because we're breaking away from social norms and blah blah blah. And I don't know, it's a weird theory in my mind, but
these foreigners are coming in here taking our dances.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is this dude just like xenophobic? Like,
yes,
kind of. It's not necessarily that. Kind of, but it's mostly that, like, as these people came in and were, like, celebrating their festivals and stuff, the locals kind of, like, joined in and then, like, found some sort of, like, societal freedom by joining in. So, I don't know. Again, that is his theory, and, like, there are some other historians who kind of, like, go along with it, and they're like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. But for the most part, that's one of the ones that they're kind of like, well, maybe in this particular case, but not in all the others, sort of thing. So, anyway, slide 6. So, further incidents of dance mania occurred during the 16th century, and that's kind of when it was at its peak of, like, the most cases across Europe. In 1536, there's not even 8 in that number, Shelby. Anyway, in 1536 in Basel, anyway, there was a incident that involved a group of children again, and then in 1551 in Anhalt, there was another case that was just one man. And then in the 17th century, incidents of recurrent dancing were recorded by Professor of Medicine Gregor Horst, who noted, quote, several women who annually visit the chapel of St. Vitus in Dreffelhausen dance madly all day and all night until they collapse in ecstasy. In this way, they come to themselves again and feel little or nothing until the next May, when they are again forced around St. Vitus Day to betake themselves to that place. ... One of these women is said to have danced every year for the past 20 years, another for a full 32 years.
Are these people just suffering from ergot poisoning and are just, like, high on LSD?
We will get to that. That is one of the theories of what was happening. But just overall, dancing mania appears to have basically died out by the mid-17th century. According to John Waller, who is a historian, although numerous incidents were recorded, the best documented cases are the outbreaks of 1374 and 1518, for which there is abundant contemporary evidence. I cannot speak. Jesus. Okay. So, slide 7. This is related, but it is a bit of a tangent. So there are similar cases called Tarantism that occurred in southern Italy around the same time, within those like same centuries, basically. And this was basically local people thought that they had been bitten by a local poisonous species of tarantula, and so they would dance compulsively in an effort to cure themselves.
Okay.
Have you ever seen someone dance the tarantella? It's crazy.
Yeah, and that's where the dance comes from.
Yeah.
Is from this phenomena. So basically the victims were said to have been poisoned by a tarantula or sometimes a scorpion, and the earliest known outbreak of this was in the 13th century, and the only known antidote to being poisoned by the tarantula was to dance to particular music to separate the venom from the blood.
It's not how that works, but okay.
Which
I think basically they just sweat it out kind of a thing.
Yeah,
okay.
because
that way makes sense, yes.
This only occurred during summer months. And so, yeah, it was basically that they were sweating out the venom.
Okay.
But,
Because the tarantella is a very fast, very spinny dance.
It is indeed. And then, kind of like with Dancing Mania, the people who thought that they had been bitten or poisoned or whatever, they would suddenly begin to dance, but then others would join in, and it was usually because these others either thought that they had also been bitten or that somehow that this person who started dancing first had passed the venom onto them. And so yeah, I don't know. It's medieval medicine. But and then there were also people who believed that the venom from their own old bites was reactivated by the heat in the summer or by the music.
They just wanted to dance.
So they would also start dancing. And the dancers would perform a tarantella, which would eventually cure the victim, at least temporarily, until the next summer when the venom reactivated from the heat or whatever. So,
or they just were in the mood to spin.
They just wanted to dance. And then some others participated in activities such as tying themselves up with vines and whipping each other, pretending to sword fight, drinking large amounts of wine, or jumping into the sea.
Okay.
So, yeah. And then some of the victims died if there was no music to accompany their dancing. And sufferers typically had symptoms resembling those of dancing mania, such as headaches, trembling, twitching, and visions.
Or everyone was epileptic.
I mean, yeah, it's also an option. But, let's see, did I actually put that? No, I actually put it on a later slide, but one of the weird things about dancing mania that kind of comes up in some of the records is that the people who were afflicted by it didn't like the color red. It would drive them into even more of a frenzy. And then so similarly, that's whatever.
Are you trying to say similarly?
What?
Are you trying to say similarly?
I am, and my brain is not working. But yes. One of the qualities of tarantism is that the participants did not like the color black, and women were reported to be most affected. But unlike dancing mania, tarantism was confined to Italy. It kind of made its way a little bit to regions in Southern Europe, but for the most part it was just in Italy. And then this also came to an abrupt end in the 17th century. So yeah, it's very similar. It just has a different cause for why these people were dancing and all of that. But yeah, to as of today, a lot of times dancing mania and tarantism are kind of considered synonymous because they happen at the same time and have a lot of overlapping symptoms and things like that. So if you would like to go to slide 8, we are going to talk about some of the explanations of why this might have occurred. None of them have been agreed upon by historians, though, so they're just theories, basically.
Yeah. So,
like Hannah mentioned, one of the biggest theories is ergot poisoning. And ergot is a fungus that grows on rye. And rye bread was like the food of the commoners basically back then, and so it wasn't uncommon for them to have ergot poisoning basically. But ergot poisoning can bring on hallucinations, spasms, and delusions thanks to the psychoactive chemicals produced by the fungus. And then ergot poisoning. Okay. So ergot poisoning was also sometimes known as St. Anthony's fire, because
I'm gonna look it up.
Yes, do that. I don't know why St. Anthony, but it was historically known as St. Anthony's fire and later became known as ergotism. And the physical symptoms of it are seizures, delirium, violent cramps, mental derangement, and later on in the process, you would get gangrene. And
do you know which St. Anthony?
I do not. I'm sure you could look up St. Anthony's fire and it would probably tell you. But ergot poisoning has also been offered as a possible explanation for like cases of bewitchment, and I mean, one of the biggest examples is the Salem witch trials of like bewitchment and convulsions and hallucinations and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as was recorded in physicians' notes, dancing seemed in some way to relieve the pain of suffering ergotism, and this is possibly the reason local authorities were prepared to employ musicians to play for sufferers. So, that is kind of one of the big theories. However, it has been shown that not all of the regions affected by dancing mania were home to people who consumed rye. Not that ergot is something that is like, it can grow on standing corn, but rye is where it like really is what it like usually affects. But not that it can only be on rye, but it is kind of the most common. But anyway, back to Robert Bartholomew. In his theory, he basically pointed out that a lot of the outbreaks didn't even happen during the wet season, which is when ergot grows on rye. So it's a theory, but it also has, there are cases where it wouldn't necessarily work, basically. So another theory is that the sufferers were afflicted with what is now known as Sydenham's chorea, which, you know, St. Vitus's dance later came to mean Sydenham chorea, so all these terms are kind of synonymous at this point because we don't know what the right term is, basically. But Sydenham's chorea is a disease characterized by rapid, uncoordinated movements affected primarily in the face, feet, and hands, and is known to result from childhood infection as well as occurring in a large proportion of sufferers of acute rheumatic fever. And then chorea can also manifest itself in epileptics and... Okay, yeah, chorea can also manifest itself in epileptics. So that's one of the other theories, but it was also super common among, like, within the Catholic Church to bring people who were suffering from epilepsy or just anything that... Because Sydenham's chorea is just a disease that you have uncoordinated movements. It's not the same as epilepsy, but like it has a lot of similar symptoms. And so anyone who like showed symptoms of that type, the Catholic Church would basically say that you had invoked the anger of St. Vitus even before dancing mania was like a thing, really. And so they would bring those people before a shrine or statue of St. Vitus. And so that is kind of how it became known as like St. Vitus's dance, is because anybody who showed any of these symptoms have always been brought before a statue of Saint Vitus, and in the hopes, and like would pray to him in the hopes of like getting better and stuff. But that also doesn't explain how so many people were like affected at the same time in the same place, basically.
Yeah.
That was a...
would you like to know why it's called St. Anthony's Fire?
I would.
Okay, so in honor of St. Anthony's life and struggle, so he was a saint who lived in the 200s to 300s, and he like dedicated most of his life. He gave up all of his worldly possessions and kind of founded monasticism within the Catholic Church, and he would go around like helping the sick that other people wouldn't help. So like lepers and stuff. So in his honor, there was a order of Hospitallers of St. Anthony established in 1100 in Grenoble, France. And it was mostly to care for people with ergotism. And the walls inside the hospital were painted red.
Oh, gosh.
To mimic the burning sensation experienced by the sufferers. And
why would you do that? Why wouldn't you want to like paint it blue so it's calming and soothing?
Well,
like...
hold on. And the monks wore black robes with blue crosses on them. So they were like, we're here to help. You are literally in hell, inside and out.
Oh, good. God. Good. That's great.
So anyway, it's kind of to do with the sensation, like the burning sensation within you. And then also kind of to do with how they painted and decorated the hospitals in France in the Middle Ages.
Okay. I love Middle Ages medical things. It's great.
They're like, let's just lean into the devil. Let's just do it. You know, paint the walls red. It's fine. Whatever.
Right. Right. But yeah, as far as like chorea being one of the causes of it, like it's possible, but usually this disorder only affects children. Like it can affect people who have acute rheumatic fever, but usually for the most part it only affects children. So it might explain some of the cases where it was just like the large groups of children, but again, it's just a theory. We can't really say for sure whether that is the cause for all these people. Also, it would just be strange for that, because that is more of like a neurological disorder that is caused by a disease. And so, I don't know, it would just be weird for it to affect that many people, I feel like. But anyway, slide 9. So one of the other theories is just madness and mass hysteria. So one historian, Waller, explains that in 1518 the people of Strasbourg were struggling to deal with famine, disease, and the belief that supernatural forces could force them to dance, basically.
Could you hear that?
No.
That giant crash?
No.
That was Thomas breaking all the dishes in my house, I think.
Oh my goodness.
Great.
No, he's cooking.
Well, as long as he's not hurt.
Yes.
Okay. But no, we did not hear that. Maybe Audacity will pick it up.
It may have. I'm not sure.
Is he good?
Let's see. He's responding now. I bet he fell for one of my booby traps. Which is all of my dishes are just not my dishes, my like baking things.
They're all just
stacked on top of each other in a yep, all your pans decided they just needed to be on the floor.
I mean, yeah. Sometimes they decide that. It's fine.
Okay. I love him so much.
But yeah, in 1374, I mean, Europe was still dealing with the aftermath of the Black Death, and so A lot of people argue that the dancers were under extreme psychological distress and were basically entering a trance state. But yeah, in the case of the Strasbourg outbreak, famine had been prevalent in the region for some time, caused by extreme weather and crop frosts during the winter. Mass deaths had occurred, as well as outbreaks of smallpox, syphilis, leprosy, and the English sweat, which is a mysterious illness which struck Europe in the late Middle Ages. And so some scholars contend that the dancing was merely a response to a shared stress to what can only have been a miserable existence. Ooh. Which, I mean, yeah, I guess.
I guess, but also, like, how am I trying to phrase this?
Like, that's not a normal response to...
That, and just, why wasn't this also happening after, like, World War II then?
Right, like...
You know what I mean? Like, right, why was it only during the Middle Ages?
These are... Like, yes, it was a really hard time for Europe after the Black Death, and, like, I get that, but the fact that this is kind of contained to Europe, and they're not the only continent who has had, like, consecutive terrible things happen.
Yeah.
So for this to be,
the Black Death came, like... Yeah, the Black Death hit, like, multiple times. It wasn't just once. So, why wasn't it after every time?
Right, yeah.
Plus, like, people were so much more, like, not isolated necessarily, but they stayed, like, within their communities for the most part.
Yeah.
So, unless some traveler came in saying, like, yes, this town on, 300 miles away also had the Black Death, like, you're not gonna know that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not like now where we know everything that's going on all the time.
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't that shared sense of, like, we're all going through this together kind of thing. They're like, my town needs to get through the Black Death and then we'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know? Like, it just, I don't buy that.
Yeah, it just, like, it's, I don't know, kind of with all of these, I'm like, I guess, but it doesn't really explain.
Yeah.
Like, again, it could explain, like, one instance of it, but not it happening for 4 centuries. Sort of thing.
And, like, they weren't timed specifically after the Black Death died out every time.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And it's not...
Let's bring it back to the curse.
Right, yeah.
More randomized. Happens whenever.
Right, and I guess what they're saying in, like, this sentence is that this could have been, like, the Strasbourg outbreak, which was the 1518 one, but, like, so in that one instance, yeah, sure, I guess, but I don't know, it just seems...
There also just isn't, like... I can't think of another instance where a very large group of people acted nonsensically after a large stressor.
Right,
you know
like
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, after the frickin' Holocaust, the Holocaust victims weren't doing shit like this.
Yeah, like, it's just...
Like, that isn't how people work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, like, weird mass hysteria things, though. There
are, but those aren't necessarily stress responses, is what I'm focusing on.
Yeah, I know. I'm agreeing with you. Like, there were those nuns who, in the 15th century, who just kept laughing.
Yeah, and there's a case of
they had the
laughing mania that happened in, like, Tanzania, I believe.
Yes, in the 60s.
And so, like, there are...
No.
Like, mass hysteria is a thing, and, like,
oh, yeah,
but
for sure.
Just to say that it was, like, caused by, like...
It's not a stress response, though.
The Mad Gasser of Mattoon is a good example of a stress response, because wasn't it right around World War II?
I have no idea what that is, so I cannot contribute.
It was in Illinois. It was all these people thought that they were being... I'm about to explain it to you! All of these people in Illinois thought that they were being gassed because they would smell something and then they would become paralyzed And
yeah.
They thought they thought they were being gassed, but they weren't.
See, but that
it was
makes
just mass
sense
hysteria because
usually,
there was
like that form of mass hysteria.
I'm gonna look up when that was.
I just looked it up. It was during
that
the 40s.
one is like a stress response because it's related to something that could have been happening at the time. But like for this
like,
one to be like,
Illinois.
oh, the Black Death and let me dance, like that's just weird. That would be
those
your
aren't
response.
like logically connected actions.
Yeah.
Whereas, but I mean, even with like yeah, we know that they weren't going to get gassed in Illinois, but back then they had no idea. Like they didn't know.
That's true.
You
they
know?
probably smelled like a jasmine flower and were like, "I'm dead. My legs don't work," and it was all it was all in their heads.
That's what I mean. Is like
they don't know
to get the like.
I know, I'm just
paralyzing effect. It's
just saying
that is
words.
Caused by something again that like could have been happening at the time. Because it wasn't uncommon to hear stories of like people being gassed.
Yes, psychosomatic. That's the word.
Yeah, it was just psychosomatic.
Yeah.
But like dancing after your entire family dies of the Black Death, that's not psychosomatic.
Right.
Maybe everyone just had a brief mental breakdown. Just checked out.
Yeah.
Let their legs go.
Right, and like
thank you.
Outbreaks of smallpox, syphilis, leprosy, and the English sweat, which no one really knows what that was either. And so it's like
the English sweat.
Yeah, it's a mysterious illness which struck Europe in the late Middle Ages and apparently disappeared in the 1550s.
It was probably just the flu.
Honestly. It was COVID.
Let's be real.
But
ugh. That's the other thing too. These illnesses don't leave you with like a lot of energy or strength.
And so, like a lot of them aren't necessarily like they don't affect your psyche so much.
Yeah.
Or like your brain. A lot of them are very
But then also you may have lost a limb or like your nose. Other than syphilis, that does affect your mentality, but only when you're in your late stages of syphilis.
Yeah. So it just
But like if you lost a leg from leprosy, you're not gonna be dancing? Like that we need to move on from this. But it's basically just that those two things do not go together, so I don't buy into the shared stress thing. That doesn't make sense to me. Anyway.
Again, I could maybe see it for like one or two of the cases, but not it can't be generalized to all of them.
No.
And that historian
to quote those kids from Nanny McPhee, you can't be poop and bum.
But yeah, that one historian, Bartholomew, he disagrees that is even like a theory that should be considered because, you know, he points out that records from the time claim that the dancers were often from other regions. Yeah. He likes to say that once the first dancers started their strange ritual, other people would join in, claiming to be overwhelmed by a compulsion.
I think that's what happened. I feel like that's what happened in those laughing cases.
Yeah.
Because it's just kind of like especially the one with the kids, like the one at the school. It just
and like I know that like if one person starts laughing and you like can't really figure out why, like everyone will start laughing.
Yeah, but this was for like days.
But still, like I don't know. Anyway. Yeah. Basically there's a lot of theories and no one really knows what is right and what is wrong.
I mean, yeah, we can't
know because medieval medicine isn't really a thing. And so like plus there's not good records of what was so actually long happening. Ago.
Yeah, it was so long ago. Like,
and so yeah, I don't know. It's just hard to say what for sure was causing it. It's probably a combination of a lot of different things. Let's be real. I mean, honestly, the fact that most of the instances started around the time of Saint Vitus's like feast and whatever says more to me than like just like mass hysteria sort of thing.
Yeah,
because
so
his feast starts in May, so I'm kind of like, okay, well, was that like that's a wet period? So in that instance, I'm like, okay, well, maybe it was just ergot poisoning sort of thing. But then there's also a lot of cases that didn't start then, and so It's just hard to say.
You may have said this earlier when I was looking at rental houses and I missed it. How did people find out about this in the Middle Ages? How was this reported?
I don't know. Nothing.
Okay.
But you said that there were instances of, pilgrims coming through to go somewhere, and they're like, did she hear that everyone over in Strasbourg is flipping their shit?
I mean, a lot of the cases, and, the biggest cases, or not the biggest, the ones that have, the most information happened in Germany. So there are cases, outside of Germany,
They're probably
but also
in cities.
Most of them seem to have happened there. But some of them, it was, religious pilgrimages, but then there was also the one where the kids went 12 miles from town to town, blah blah blah. So I think it was just travelers, honestly. I don't think it was necessarily a thing that was reported.
Okay, so my next question is, how do we know this wasn't just a May Day celebration that people exaggerated a lot, multiple times?
Because people died from it.
And it would last for
okay, but how do we know that they died? Where are the records that they died?
It was... Shelby
do you see what I'm saying?
They had records of it.
Okay. I'm just I don't trust word of mouth shit, especially from the medieval.
Well, because a lot of it was that in the case where they were dancing across the bridge, they were taken to the church to be healed or whatever, and so a lot of it is in church records.
Okay, that's what I needed. Thank you.
Yeah, and so some of it could probably be attributed to May Day festivities and stuff like that, but it's the fact that it would last for weeks and months and stuff like that, and then it is in church records that people died from it. And
I just Googled it, and there are not any contemporaneous sources that make note of any fatalities.
Oh, okay. Well.
Okay, well, we'll throw this one in the trash. Thanks, Shelby. Bye.
That's fine.
At least for the one in Strasbourg.
Okay.
There are no contemporaneous accounts of any fatalities for Strasbourg.
Yeah, but...
Listen, the Tarantella was real. I've seen videos.
Yes, but the one with, the bridge, and then there is the one where, the monk died for sure, but that was just the one guy. But then, the one with the bridge that some people died, but that's because they fell into, a river. But then some of them...
they were wearing 14 pounds of clothing that was all wool, and then immediately became 50 pounds of clothing when it soaked up the entire river.
To the church to be healed and stuff, so... I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just floating the idea that
for sure.
Maybe it was people telling stories.
Oh, yeah, I believe that.
Did you hear that everyone in Strasbourg is dead because they were dancing?
Yeah.
How scandalous.
Well, especially because, Germany at the time wasn't really Germany. It was, a bunch of,
principalities.
Germanic principalities that all hated each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's probably the Kingdom of Strasbourg, and they're those foolish people over there.
Those dum-dums over in Strasbourg dance themselves to death. What morons,
Saint Vitus cursed them because they're a bunch of harlots.
Yes. Yeah.
One woman showed her ankle. Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this just always seemed like something that was more not folklore necessarily, but just so outlandish that I've always been did it really happen?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway.
Honestly, I think it's less of... I don't know, because there are a fair amount of, contemporary reports of, people dancing themselves to exhaustion. But that's not to say that they weren't exaggerated from that point.
Yeah.
Because to dance yourself to exhaustion takes a day.
Yeah.
And, if you're dancing for a month, how do you go to the bathroom? How do you eat? How do you...
Yeah. You'll be dead from dehydration in 3 days.
You literally can't even, stay awake for a month. So...
Yeah.
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 I mean, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just going to be Captain Buzzkill like always and be like, hey.
Yes. So slide 10, this is kind of just like an overview again of like things that were, what is the word I'm looking for? Anyway, I'm just going to read it. It's fine.
To reiterate.
What?
I said to reiterate.
Yeah, basically. But the outbreaks of dancing mania varied, and several characteristics of it have been recorded, but generally they occurred in times of hardship. I don't know. This is the sentence where what we just talked about kind of puts it into question, but up to tens of thousands of people would appear to dance for hours, days, weeks, and even months. But also, I know for a fact that sentence was taken from Wikipedia, so that seems a bit hyperbolic. But anyway. Women have often been portrayed in modern literature as the usual participants in dancing mania, but contemporary sources suggest otherwise. Men and children were also affected. Whether the dancing was spontaneous or an organized event is also debated. What is certain, however, is that the dancers seem to be in a state of unconsciousness and unable to control themselves. So again, Robert Bartholomew notes that contemporary sources record that participants often did not reside where the dancing took place. Such people would travel from place to place, and others would join them along the way. With them, they brought customs and behavior that were strange to the local people. Bartholomew describes how dancers wore strange, colorful attire and held wooden sticks.
What happens in Strasbourg stays in Strasbourg. That's all I'm going to say.
But not all of the outbreaks involved foreigners, and not all were particularly like calm instances. So yeah, it's hard to say if they're even all caused by the same thing, or if it was just like you said, they heard that something happened in Strasbourg and someone was like, I'm a kid, I'm gonna do some fucked up nonsense to make my parents mad, and I'm gonna start a dance craze. Like, I don't know. Some people probably ate some ergot. Like, who knows? And then, let's see. So Bartholomew notes that some paraded around naked and made obscene gestures. Others acted like animals and jumped, hopped, and leaped about. They hardly stopped, and some danced until they broke their ribs and subsequently died. Throughout, dancers screamed, laughed, or cried, and some sang. Bartholomew also notes that observers of dancing mania were sometimes treated violently if they refused to join in. Participants demonstrated odd reactions to the color red. So in A History of Madness...
Is he sure he wasn't watching like a bullfighting incident?
I don't know.
Not that bulls can't see the color red, but just... I don't know.
I don't know.
Anyway.
The color red has negative connotations, so... but
let's paint the walls of our hospital that color.
Right? As you literally, like, burn.
As you're burning from the inside.
It's fine. So, in A History of Madness in 16th century Germany, the author Mittelfort notes that they could not perceive the color red at all, and Bartholomew reports it was said that dancers could not stand the color red, often becoming violent upon seeing it. So I don't know what that's about. Nothing in any of my research said why they disliked the color red. I would imagine that's probably a symptom of whatever disease was afflicting these people. But I don't know.
I want to see the contemporaneous sources so bad. Like,
I know, same. But I didn't go that far.
It was said. Where was it said? Why are you writing a passive sentence, Bartholomew?
Well, I also did not read his book because...
Well, no, I know. I'm not asking you.
It literally says in his research, author Robert Bartholomew notes that contemporary sources, and then it's a quote from him.
Yeah.
So
that's not...
Maybe in his book he actually gives the contemporary source, but,
yeah,
you know.
I want to see what it says, because...
I don't know.
And where that source...
Find
what
his book.
What that source lived in. You know what I mean? Like, was it a church record? Was it, like, a pamphlet? Was it a diary? Like, what is it?
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't do that much research. I don't care. It's about Dancing Mania. It's not that I don't care. I just didn't do that much research. Also, I did half of this research while I was, like, falling asleep, so...
Yeah. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do.
Bartholomew also notes that dancers, quote, could not stand pointed shoes, and that dancers enjoyed their feet being hit. So, I don't know what the fuck that's about. And throughout, those affected by dancing mania suffered from a variety of ailments, including chest pains, convulsions, hallucinations, hyperventilation, epileptic fits, and visions. In the end, most simply dropped down, overwhelmed with exhaustion. Middlefort, however, describes how some ended up in a state of ecstasy. Typically, the mania was contagious, but it often struck small groups such as families and individuals. So, chances are it was something they ate, let's be real.
Yeah.
They probably came across some strange mushroom in the forest and mixed it with their ergot poisoning, and there we have it. Mm-hmm. So, you know. But yeah, and then slide 11 is my sources. If you would like to see them, it's 2 Wikipedia pages, a Smithsonian article, some WordPress article, and then randomtimes.com. So, you know. That's really all I have for you, though. Basically, people may or may not have formed large groups of dancing that lasted anywhere from a day to a month, and may or may not have died from it. We don't actually know. Yeah. And we don't know what caused it, if it did happen. So.
Interesting.
There you have it. That is Dancing Mania, I guess. Any thoughts? Thoughts or comments?
Catch me out in the streets, dancing the tarantella later.
Yes. You just spin around forever. Also, I just liked the last picture I used on slide 10 because I just like this little demon guy. He has a carrot for a nose, or an ice cream cone.
And a butt.
Yeah, he's got a butt to rival Mothman's. Anyway.
Oh, man.
Any final thoughts?
Nope. None of those sources that the Wikipedia page quotes are available online, which is really fucking annoying.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it is. So,
okay, that's all right.
There you have it. St. Vitus's Dance / St. John's Dance / Dancing Mania / the Dancing Plague. All the things. All the names.
Amen.
Yes. Go see St. Vitus if you have the urge to dance.
I'm sure there's a shrine somewhere.
I'm sure there is. I don't know where. But have fun, guys. Our ending is that we have no ending. Long live the Emperor. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay. Wait. Shit. Fuck. Thanks for listening to The Triad. Our music is by Scott Buckley. Our audio is recorded by our sound engineers, Craig Bott and Audrey Credo.
If you like the show, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, YouTube, and Tumblr as The Triad Podcast.
We're also on Patreon as The Triad. Currently, all Patreon funds will go towards the cost of hosting the show. Each tier has its own rewards, but every patron receives our undying gratitude.
Do you have comments, questions, or stories? Email us at thetriadpod@gmail.com. And thank you again for listening to The Triad, where we're spooky but sensitive.